It's just intensely painful. It's one of the hardest things a person has to get over. And because I preached this message back in 1993, I hope I'm a better preacher than I was then, but it's the exact same outline. And I actually, back then, I was just joining the board of a ministry called Pioneers. And it's a mission agency. I was on the board for 10 years. Other leaders in our church have been very involved with Pioneers. It's a great, great ministry. And before I was even on the board, I was asked to go to one of the mission training centers. And they asked me to, when they were training, kind of like in our training center, they bring in a bunch of missionaries and they train them and they send them out. And I did the Bible teaching for, I don't know, it seemed like it was 75 or 80 missionaries who were headed all over the world. And the founder of Pioneers, a guy named Ted Fletcher, he's with the Lord now, but Ted Fletcher was the national sales director for the Wall Street Journal, and late in his career, he abandoned all of it and started a mission agency that has taken the gospel to every corner of the earth. He was a great man. His son, John Fletcher, has been a great prayer partner of mine for many years, and his daughter was married to a man who was on staff here at the church years ago. We have a rich history with these wonderful people. And I remember preaching this outline to 75 or 80 outgoing missionaries in the mid-90s. And before I'd preached for very long, just sitting over here in the back was Ted Fletcher with tears rolling down his cheeks. You know when you're in church and it's like, that was God's word for me. He never gave me the details. I don't know what waves of betrayal had crashed upon the shore of his life. But I know that some of these truths gave him a freedom and an ability to manage that in a way that he didn't extend that pain to other people. I just thought of Ted when I made that point. Betrayal is intensely painful. Such a godly man, such a forgiving man. And notice why it's so painful, starting in verse 21, John 13:21. After saying these things, Jesus was troubled in his spirit and testified. That word troubled there is the same word that's used in John 11 at Jesus' emotion at Lazarus' tomb. The word actually is like this. It's like the snort of a horse. It's like Jesus was troubled when he thought about how it felt to have Judas act as he was. He was troubled in his spirit and said, "Truly, truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." Why is betrayal so painful? As best as I can discern, it's this. It's the realization that you were to a person not what you are, but what you do. That's the pain of betrayal. I mean, I thought you were into me. No, I was into the meals you make. I was into the way you clean house. I was into the way that you were into me, which was easy to fall in love with because the person I really love is me. And now that you don't do for me what you used to do for me, I can't be for you anymore because I never really was for you. I've always been for King me. That's the pain of betrayal. And to discover that what you thought was commitment was only raw consumerism. And to that person, you were just a body, just an income, just a pleasure, just a performance, something to use. You're wounded deeply. Then notice this, you're left lonely. Starting in verse 22, just let me read. The disciples looked at one, or Jesus gets, one of you is going to betray me. The disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he spoke. Isn't that always, you want to know who it is, right? Who? One of the disciples, whom Jesus loved, that's John referring to himself, was reclining at the table close to Jesus. So Simon Peter motioned to him. He says, "You're close to him. Just ask him. Who's he talking about?" So that disciple, leaning kind of back and just kind of whispering more closely to Jesus, asked Jesus and said to him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered and said, "It is he to whom I will give the morsel of bread." And he took it and he dipped it in the wine, we would assume, and he passed it across the table. You're like, Why all the games? Why didn't he just say it was Judas? Because the sharing of the bread was the symbol of the intimacy of the friendship. And in a final act of friendship, Jesus portrays how twisted the betrayal was. You see, it wasn't something like, well, I don't want to say his name, so I'll just do this little. We broke bread together. Back to the text. So Simon Peter motioned to him and asked him, who is he speaking? The disciple, leaning back against Jesus, said, Lord, who is it? It's the one to whom I give this morsel of bread when I've dipped it. So when he had dipped the morsel, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. Then after he had taken the morsel, Satan entered into him. There it is, see. Jesus said to him, what you're going to do quickly. Get going, get going. Now, no one at the table knew why he said this to him. I don't know, it seems really obvious to me, but it's just so shocking. It can't be true. Some thought that because Judas had the money bag, Jesus was telling him to buy what we would need for the feast, or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the morsel so he took it and he ate it. And after receiving the morsel of bread, he immediately went out, and it was at night. Just this then, you're wounded deeply and you're left lonely.